Welcome back to the Wrestling Roundtable, and obviously this being our first show, the comments and opinions haven't come up yet, but I can already see people posting, what about ECW? ECW made all these guys stars. Can we just say that's a big bunch of bullshit right now?
I wouldn't say if one of the fat kids at his staring at his webcam.
Don't get me wrong. There were a lot of guys who made their name in ECW or had a rebirth in ECW. Oh, yeah. They had great runs. But Eric Bischoff, and I think correctly, always likes to point out that ECW was destined to be a niche, regional, small product. Just by its very nature.
Thing. That was its
because
premise.
when it went on CNN, it failed miserably on a bigger scale.
Right.
And you know, me personally, I would rather see them in the ECW arena than the big lit up shows at the convention hall.
Outside of
it's punk rock. You're not punk rock anymore once you're in the mainstream. Once you have a network TV deal.
I can think of only a handful of guys who were bigger stars in ECW as opposed to like WCW or WWF. Like Sandman.
Taz.
Well, I guess so. He was much better in ECW. I'll give you that.
But that first night, though, man, you could have cut the electricity with a knife.
I'm telling you, it
was absurd.
Lit up.
It was like Kurt Who, you know?
Yeah, I don't want to give the impression that we're coming down on WCW too hard because we really believe that a lot of guys wouldn't, like I said, wouldn't have ended up in WWF. So
yeah, Taz still has a job there.
Well, who do you think was the biggest potential star that WCW missed out on? Maybe a guy.
WCW?
Yeah, that they let slip through their fingers.
Can I go first on this one?
Sure, go ahead.
Eddie Guerrero, by far. Oh man.
But well, the numbers prove you right. So.
Well, not even the numbers. Just like I always say, man, what if they realized what they had at Conan at the time and Eddie and put them together as like Los Guerreros with the Lowriders or something like that, the people would have went nuts.
We saw like Havoc.
They would have went nuts.
We saw like Havoc '99.
Even the LWO was kind of hot.
LWO was hot.
We saw
this hot at the time.
We saw at Havoc '99 like the seeds of lie, cheat, and steal. I mean, it was his shirt, cheat to win. You know?
And he had when he tightened his game up, when he tightened that whole thing up, and he figured out how to use the stereotype and also be like accessible to the mainstream fans. He had that stuff down better than Benoit ever had his shtick or Jericho. Because Jericho's stuff is so quirky and ridiculous. Even going back, like it's not nearly as funny, and a lot of it's just.
I think his WCW stuff is great.
It's some of it, but coming back, it's kind of like, wow, this guy wasn't nearly as cool.
I think his WWF stuff.
But Eddie just has such it factor.
It just
got
stale really fast.
I mean, I appreciate Eddie so much more now that he's passed away. You really realize how really great a performer this guy was, not as a wrestler even, just as like a personality. You just want to hug him and be like, I love this guy. Eddie sucks. Eddie sucks always, no matter what he did.
Just imagine,
Jericho would kill to provoke a reaction like that.
With Guerrero, how the fans reacted when he beat Brock for the belt. Just imagine if 99, if he's frog splashing Kevin Nash on pay-per-view.
LWO, NWO,
I got the perfect
how crazy it would be. And the pay-per-view.
I got a great comparison. You know, the other two guys everybody would probably say are Benoit and Jericho. Most of the crowd, it was almost contrived. Like, yes. But when Eddie won, the fans were like, yes, Eddie, we love Eddie, because he's in the crowd. And it wasn't, it wasn't the same thing. Eddie was somebody the fans legitimately had a connection with on some level, whereas Benoit was like, we respect him as well, yes.
Which star of WCW's do you think that them leaving WCW had the most impact?
Them leaving WCW? Oh, like later on?
What do you mean? Coming back to the WWF or?
Not back or two for the first time.
Oh, just that they lost, like a loss, a major loss.
Yeah, a loss in the company.
Oh, man.
A major loss?
I think Big Show was a big loss. Only because this was like a WCW star from day one when he walked in. He was beating Hogan and stuff. And it was like one of their guys. And it just made this perception like, you go to the WWF if you want to be a real star. Because I think even me as a WCW fan, root for WCW at that time, because everybody had their side.
Hogan told him to go.
Yeah, even like it's like, geez, like this is like a guy that WCW is more than happy to put the belt on and push.
In his first match.
Yeah,
but
he's leaving because he wants to make it.
They didn't know what to do with him. How many times did he join the NWO? I don't know. But they didn't know what to do with them towards the end.
You have the next Andre the Giant.
That happened with a lot of people.
When we watch these old Nitros,
Giant, who more than the Giant was on and off for the NWO? They would kick out and then he'd join.
Of course, they ruined him.
I mean, they had him come to ring smoking cigarettes. But that right there, I was like, they don't know what to do with this guy.
Yeah.
When we watch those old Nitros on 24/7, and we see the Giant and the pops that he's getting next to Sting in '96, '97, he was over. He was. People had the Giant T-shirt. I mean, he came out, the energy level. The people would get up and just go nuts for beating up all these 10 guys at once.
Drop kicks.
I mean, you got Andre the Giant level, like size, but also the people did perceive him as the next Andre. It wasn't like these other slugs like El Gigante and Khali. They really looked at him like this is the heir to Andre because they put him with Hogan right away. And you know,
I know a lot of people,
you missed out on the next Andre the Giant.
I know a lot of people are probably going to be saying Jericho. I really don't think Jericho matters that much in the long term at all.
No, not at all.
In terms of anything.
And I was a big Jericho fan too.
If they lost anybody, WCW to WWF, and it was a big deal, I think it was. I don't know if you want to group all the radicals together, but definitely Benoit and Guerrero.
Guerrero, yes, Benoit. No, out of all those 4 guys, Guerrero's going to win the match.
Benoit more than Guerrero at the time, I think.
At the time, but you know what? It turned out to be Benoit just wasn't the type of guy WF could get over.
But he was a WCW guy, and it was his time.
Oh, it hurt at the time. It definitely hurt us.
It was like their entire mid-card left.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
It was. But, you know, when they gave him the belt, it was almost as if they said, here, give the belt to Stay.
But
that's what it was.
It was.
Oh, totally.
And we saw it through it. It was a bunch of shit.
Bunch
of shit. Like I said, that should have happened.
There's a lot of people that we don't even realize maybe even had a bigger impact, like Raven. I mean, look at TNA came so close.
Raven was the main event.
Raisin.
Back in Raisin.
You know they'll say Raisin's just one of those old guys.
Raisin.
Hey, Hogan's wearing some orange goblin, and you know it's funny because he's tan and
I think of all the potential stars they could have made out of that group of guys. The biggest star they could have had in, let's say, like that Magic Time year in '98. I think it would be Big Papa Pump.
The Magic Time. Ah, that's a good
Big Papa Pump could have been.
Scott Steiner could have exploded if he had just been at that level a couple years before.
Yeah,
well, not
I think so too. I really think so too.
Oh yeah.
Instead, he like putted around the whole year with like some non-feud.
Him and Bagwell,
and you know, feuding with Rick Steiner, and he had a very, very short feud with Goldberg.
What do you guys say to our potential critics here who will say, well, WCW made all those guys? I'm sorry, that ECW made all those guys that WCW brought in, like the Luchadors.
The hell was Jericho?
Maybe they introduced the fans to them. And
it was just another place they wrestled. It was just another place they wrestled. You kidding me? WCW took notice of them because they said, "Oh, let's take this guy." Because they used to rate everybody. They would sign any.
They took him and put him on the grand stage.
WCW signed 911. I don't know if they signed him, but I mean, if Bischoff had the net and could raid the talent anywhere, he's in ECW. Let's take him. That doesn't mean ECW made him a star. It means they allowed WCW to take notice.
I mean, yeah, they did fuck up with the same.
Well, look at the group that came in around that time in like 95, 96. You got Benoit, Guerrero, Malenko, Jericho, the Luchadors, Mysterio, Public Enemy, Conan.
Put him on paper.
Those sort of guys all became much bigger stars and more.
Wasn't Mysterio's match on paper?
More well-rounded packages.
Mysterio was
after
total
coming into
WCW star.
I think one of the biggest ones was Bam Bam Bigelow. The way he came in. Looking for Goldberg, you're like, oh shit, Bam Bam. And I mean, ECW did.
That is because he did rebuild his character in ECW.
I think way better than WWF.
Oh God,
yeah. I mean, they made him a monster. You know, Welcome to the Jungle. You know, it came out. It was very intense.
He was badass.
No,
he was.
I tried being a positive person.
Yeah, that's the man.
But
God, what people were dead. Benoit's dead. Bigelow's dead. Oh my God. Public Enemy's dead.
When it comes to wrestling, I'm very cynical.
That's sad.
And I think come next week, you fans are going to see why, because all that stuff we're going to be talking about TNA next week. Love it, hate it. I know you guys do, but next week we're going to be talking about TNA and all this stuff that we went through with ECW, WCW, just as fans.
Yeah.
We've seen this play before.
Yeah.
And I have no patience for it anymore.
No, not at all.
But hopefully you'll have patience enough. We welcome questions and criticism and feedback, and we'll see you next week on the Wrestling Roundtable.